Hopefully this review wasn't a steaming pile of garbage.
It was.
But there's no sense crying over every mistake. You just keep on trying till you run out of cake.
God, it's only been 3 years since I started making these videos. It honestly felt like an eternity ago. My original video on Portal was the first review I ever made, and it shows. Did you know that I used Blender to edit videos back then? Yeah, I don't know the first thing about 3D modeling, but it was the only free video editing software that I could actually stomach at the time. Then I got some cheap version of Sony Vegas off Steam a few months later. I don't know how I managed to use it for the first 2 reviews I made.
Anyway, I've improved a lot since then. And before I cover Portal 2, I'm not satisfied with the first video I ever made. I could do so much better now. Besides, I haven't gone around replaying it since then, so let's take another look at Portal, this short game about shooting holes in the walls.
But before that, we gotta talk about the student project called Nobacular Drop. Just rolls off the tongue. This was a prototype for Portal. You played as a princess that was rescuing herself from something. There's a little bit of story, but it goes by so fast that you can't read it. Regardless, you place down portals on dirt to solve puzzles. It's really rough around the edges. Like, you're supposed to use these rolling boulders to press down these buttons, but they don't stop in the pit, and the button might not actually activate. Or they could just not spawn at all. Thanks. Unlike Portal, you can actually make portals through portals, and it breaks this level. I get why they removed it. Not being able to jump is pretty awkward too. It killed me a few times. And to top it off, it ends with an unfinished level and credits that didn't load for me for some reason. Look, it's a student project. It wasn't going to be perfect, but it had cool ideas. For as simple a concept as putting down 2 interconnected portals, it was weirdly well implemented. There was a ton of potential here, and Valve thought that too. This game was showed off at a trade show, and a representative of Valve was so impressed that he hired the team right on the spot to turn it into a full game. You know the rest. Nobacular Drop isn't worth making a whole video on. It's over in like 20 minutes and not overly enjoyable on its own. But if you're a fan of Portal, it's really cool to see what it started out as. There was even some sections that were practically ripped from ND into Portal. Portal was originally included in the orange box. You'd think it was a standard compilation of Valve games at first glance, but no. Most of the content in this box were brand new games. Well, 2 new games and an expansion to an old one. Then they slapped on Half-Life 2 in Episode 1 just for funsies. But still, that's insane. They even updated Half-Life 2 to use Episode 2's updated engine, along with putting it on consoles for the first time, and it was still only $60. But we're talking about Portal. I wasn't really involved in this hype at the time. I didn't even know who Valve was until Portal 2 came out in 2011. But from what I understand, most people just saw Portal as a cherry on top. Just some fun little side game they included to round out the package. After playing it, Portal ended up being a surprise favorite for a lot of people. It was short, so not having a standalone release was justified, but it had so much heart and was so unique that it gained fans quickly. So what even is Portal if you've somehow been living under a gaming rock for the past decade? Well, you wake up from stasis as some robot lady tells you about the Aperture Science Computer-Aided Enrichment Center. She's named GLaDOS, by the way. Also, you're some woman named Shell, but trust me, it's not important. You're a test subject. You run around and solve puzzles in test chambers, all through cake, and grief counseling. Well, we can all use a little bit of therapy, but there's the main mechanic of the game. Portals. You can shoot 2 on white walls and they're both interconnected with each other. Everything in the game is designed around these, and the game is all about learning how all these mechanics work together. After a few tests, you can make your own portals, although you can only make blue ones at first. It just keeps escalating from there. Some mechanics even have multiple ways to use them. You thought cubes were just used to push down buttons? No. You can use one as a stepping stone, as a shield, as depression. What's up with this place? There's energy balls of death, toxic floors of death, turrets that shoot you to death, fizzlers that can vaporize any non-living objects except the portal gun you're carrying or the clothes on your back. How did Aperture stay in operation long enough to get the funding to make this stuff? This game is just a series of increasingly difficult puzzles to solve, but it's much more than that. This is also an action game, and it's designed like one. So sometimes you have to shoot portals in the right ways fast enough, or you have to figure out how you're supposed to progress without getting yourself killed. And it's all taught without actually telling you anything. This game is really just one big tutorial, but it never feels like one. Like, you've been using cubes throughout the whole game, and then you've got a level where you only have one, and it's got a little hold on it. That means it's your friend and totally won't stab you. But you've got this one cube the whole time, and you just instantly know how it works through game design. You've used them to push down buttons and shield yourself from turrets, but now it's being used in conjunction with energy pellets. And you just figure out how you're supposed to use this cube to shield yourself, and even reflect them back into receptors, all on your own. Even when the game has to tell you how things work, it at least does it in an entertaining way. Like, you might not realize that momentum is conserved when going through portals. So, they say this.
Momentum, a function of mass and velocity, is conserved between portals. In layman's terms, speedy thing goes in, speedy thing comes out.
The game just told you game mechanics like a tutorial would, but you can't tell that it's being shoved right in your face. That action aspect of these puzzles makes the game fun to play on its own. Portals have this satisfying sound effect when they form, and jumping into one being spat out of the other never gets old. Even though you're solving puzzles, there's rarely just one way to solve them once you got both portals. You could get both cubes from this chamber like a chump, or you can just use one cube and skip all this nonsense. Or why even bother playing this chamber when you can just skip it entirely with well-placed portals? It's fun to see just how far you can stretch the mechanics, and even when you run out of new solutions, maybe you can do it faster, or maybe you can do it with less portal placements. Portal is just so much fun to replay. My only real complaint with this game is that it feels too short-lived. There's 19 test chambers, and you only have both portals for about 6 of them. Once the game opens up, you're already a third of the way through the game. That would be fine, but when you can beat it in under 3 hours on your first playthrough, it just leaves you wanting more. But the further you get through this testing course, you can't help but feel like something's not quite right. You start to realize how condescending GLaDOS can be. She even lies at you on occasion. You know you can't trust her. She's constantly watching you with cameras too.
Do not destroy vital testing apparatus.
And there's windows peering into every test chamber, yet you never see anyone. You feel like you're constantly being watched, but you can never interact with anyone. It makes you paranoid. And you know you're not alone, because there's these things called rat dens. Hidden in test chambers are these little hidey holes that give you a peek into the background of the facility. They've got all these cryptic writings on the walls. She's watching you. The cake is a lie. There's someone else trapped you, and they've gone crazy. They warned you, so you have to be prepared for the worst. If you want to get out of this madhouse alive, you've got to do it on your own. Help isn't coming. You're alone. The final test is easy. A little too easy. As you ride the lift to victory and turn the corner... Oh!
Does anyone care that I spoil this? Everyone knows about this plot twist.
And for good reason. You see the fire pit, the music gets intense for the first time, and you instantly go, what the hell? That ain't fair. Your reward is death. The cake was a lie. You could just die here, but you notice the white walls. You can get yourself out of this. Yeah, these idiots forgot to put non-portable walls in the incinerator room. This is the point where the game goes from great to amazing. GLaDOS' calm and condescending demeanor instantly becomes panicky and sarcastic. She doesn't know what to do in this situation. It's almost like she has to go against her own programming to figure out how to get rid of you, while you feel like you just broke the game's own rules with the skills you gained from playing it. And as a reward, you see what's going on in Aperture behind the scenes. It's completely empty other than robots, but you can still see where people would have been. There's offices, factories, and no matter where you go, this place is deserted. It makes you wonder what happened to everyone. GLaDOS retaliates with turret ambushes, but well-placed portals is all it takes to get through this place. Aperture really gets more character during this part of the game. Being behind the scenes just shows how wasteful this place is. What's the point of all this? All this stuff obviously works. Why make a near infinite supply of turrets and cubes? One of my favorite parts of going behind the scenes is all the employee presentations over how much Black Mesa sucks. These guys really don't like competition, do they? Wait. Black Mesa? Yeah, Portal takes place in the same universe as Half-Life. GLaDOS even mentions how she has an infinite capacity for knowledge and even she doesn't know what's going on outside. You don't need to play Half-Life to know what's going on, but if you did, you'd know that Black Mesa was accidentally causing the apocalypse around this time. Whoops. That's something about this game that I couldn't appreciate before. You see, when I made the original Portal review, I wasn't all that familiar with Half-Life. I played Half-Life 2, and while I enjoyed it, I wouldn't say I was a fan of these games. But a few months ago, I figured I'd give the series a second shot, and wow, these are some great games. I wouldn't mount them on a pedestal or anything, but it's crazy how well they've aged. Especially 2. It feels like a game from the early 2010s, made in 2004. I might have to give these games a look one day. Still need to play Alex, though. VR headsets are expensive, okay? But back on topic, Portal does a great job of feeling in-universe with Half-Life, but still being its own thing. Aperture has this really dystopian sci-fi look to it, and contrasts how industrial and militaristic Black Mesa feels. Look, never trust a building with all white rooms, and never trust one that gives Gabe Newell access to dangerous equipment. They both feel dystopian and futuristic for different reasons, and since it doesn't make sense why Shell doesn't take fall damage, they gave her these bracer things that protect her from long falls. Wait, did she not wear shoes? Okay, Corin. The humor really sets it apart too. I just love how damn quotable this game is.
Unbelievable. You
Subject name here.
must be the pride of.
Subject hometown here.
Remember when the platform was sliding into the fire pit and I said goodbye? And you were like, no word. And then I was wrong. We pretended we were going to murder you. That was great.
Half-Life has some iconic lines, but it's refreshing how Portal isn't as dead serious as Half-Life. They took some mechanics from Half-Life as well and recontextualized them into puzzle mechanics. You don't have a gravity gun in Portal, so you have to think about how to move the energy pellets toward a receptacle, or how to knock turrets over using portals. And those turrets aren't mindless robots this time, they're much cuter and even talk and have personality. They're just as deadly though, let me tell you. After getting far enough through the escape sequence, GLaDOS just gives up trying to cooperate. She sends you a death threat, and I usually respond by destroying the nearby office supplies. I can't be the only one who loves doing this, I have no idea why. But after learning how rocket turrets work and finding a bunch of regular turrets, this game actually has a boss fight. GLaDOS was going to deploy a surprise before some personality core that she's somehow never seen before falls off of her. So, you throw it in an incinerator. Yeah, you know how the game earlier forced you to kill your only friend, the companion cube? You see that thing, and it doesn't take long to know what it does. After the core is incinerated, GLaDOS somehow gets crazier.
Good news. I figured out what that thing you just incinerated did. It was a morality core they installed after I flooded the enrichment center with a deadly neurotoxin to make me stop flooding the enrichment center with a deadly neurotoxin. So get comfortable while I warm up the neurotoxin emitters.
On paper, this fight isn't too special. You mainly just redirect rockets into GLaDOS and retrieve the cores that fall off of her. Oh, and there's a time limit too. But the dialogue makes this boss. It's so good.
Have you ever been in the middle of two people screaming over each other and you realize you're talking about two completely different things? This is like that.
There was even going to be a party for you. A big party that all your friends were invited to. I invited your best friend, the companion, too. Of course, he couldn't come because you murdered him. What's your point anyway? Survival. Well then, the last thing you want to do is hurt me. I have your brain scanned and permanently backed up in case something terrible happens to you. Which it's just about to. Don't believe me? Here, I'll put you on. That's you. That's how dumb you sound.
It's so good, man. For a game that's generally so calm, the chaotic dialogue is an awesome contrast. Even if you take longer than usual to finish this boss, it's still entertaining because of the dialogue, and it seems like there's always some line that I forgot about. It's a great way to cap off the game. Afterwards, Aperture explodes or something, I don't know what this is. Something drags you off, and you finally get your cake. The credits theme is what everyone remembers though. Still Alive is such a good song, and it gives off a surprisingly uplifting message considering it just killed GLaDOS. If you somehow haven't heard it yet, give it a listen later. It's one of my favorite songs in general. If you want some more content after you beat the game, there's still some extra challenge maps. They're the same test chambers from after you get both portals, but remixed to be much harder. The first three I really liked. They were the same levels, but with different obstacles and portable surfaces, so you had to think about these levels in new ways. Although this part where you have to guide the energy pellet just felt weird. I don't even know what I did, I just kept trying different portal placements until it went in. And that's my issue with the last three test chambers. Being completely stumped is really refreshing considering the unhealthy amount of times I've played these games, but they're just not enjoyable. Most of the time, the aha moment never came. It's just like, oh, okay, there's some random portal surface that I can just barely see, or I guess that works somehow. Not being able to kill these turrets sounds like a fun challenge on paper, but it ends up feeling more like a test of endurance than a puzzle. I'm not thinking, just doing, and that kind of goes against what Portal is about to begin with. The worst part of these challenges is this last room, because there's usually this platform below to launch yourself easily, but it's been moved, so you have to make your own launch point. It's something that I can do, but more often than not, I miss a shot and have to save scum, because setting it back up is a pain in the ass. I was baffled why I never finished these before now, but after doing them, I totally see why. They don't have the same level of polish as the main game, and almost feel like a mod put into the official game. If you wanted more of a challenge, challenge, here you go, but they're not something that I'll ever come back to. But they are optional, so they're not harming the overall game. There were more maps added to the standalone 360 version of the game too. They were based on a 2D fan game that was eventually adapted into a mod for the PC version. They basically just put a mod into an official release. That's super cool. I should really get around to playing these at some point. One thing I love about Valve's more recent releases is the developer commentary. And by more recent, I mean released 9 years ago. Seriously, what happened? They go over a lot of the game's design as you play, and it's just a really interesting listen. It's totally worth a second playthrough if you're into game design. If you're still bored, there's time trials to the main chambers, so feel free to try and beat your own records. This game is no liar, this was a triumph and a huge success, so a sequel was just inevitable. What better way to announce it than some weird ARG? Yeah, one day they just added these weird radios in every chamber in the game. They gave off some weird signal and fizzled that gave us a bunch of cryptic images teasing a sequel. Honestly, this was kinda cool, especially since it was announced only a few days later. But before we get to that, Portal was an awesome time. It may be short, but there wasn't a single low point in the whole game. I must have played Portal at least like 20 times. There was something really special here, and I just don't get tired of it. Portal even spawned this new genre of action puzzle games that I really need to play more of. But I already said this stuff like 3 years ago.
This video probably wasn't garbage like last time. I wasn't planning on redoing my first video so soon, but I knew that if I didn't, my coverage of this series was going to be really fragmented, so here we are. I don't plan on redoing old videos very often, but if a good opportunity comes up and enough time has passed, why not? I could give a score, but seeing as Valve still can't count to 3, I still don't have to count to 10.
Pick this game up on Steam for like $10, it's super easy to run nowadays. Wait for a sale if that's too much for some reason. I've seen this game go as low as 99 cents. This game, it's cheaper than dirt. The console versions are fine, but it's best on PC at this point. You're not really missing much from the standalone 360 version either, since the extra content was just a mod. And after you play Portal, make sure you play the second game, which is easily one of my favorite games ever. This has been that Flame Assassin guy. I'm sorry, my bad, haven't used that name in a while. Anyways, tune in next time for Portal 2. Take care, and I'll see you all next mission.